Today in the Oval Office, as his FEMA director briefed him on Hurricane Florence currently barreling toward the United States, President Trump was asked by a reporter how he will apply the lessons he took from Puerto Rico. The president replied, quote, "I think Puerto Rico was incredibly successful. I actually think it was one of the best jobs that's ever been done. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible unsung success." Nearly 3,000 American citizens died. And now, on that front, we have some breaking news. Tonight, Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon has gotten his hands on a document that has never been seen publicly before, which appears to show that Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security requested to transfer about $10 million out of the budget for FEMA this year and into the coffers of ICE to support ICE's detention and deportation programs for immigrants. Senator Merkley's office believed the transfer of these funds happened this summer, just in time for hurricane season. Senator Merkley will join us live in just a moment, but I want to show you the document that his office has obtained. I have it here. I think we can put it on screen. Thank you. It's titled, as you can see, Department of Homeland Security Fiscal Year 2018 Transfer and Reprogramming Notifications. In other words, this is the whole list of money that Homeland Security took from one agency and moved to another. And the practice of transferring monies between agencies, that is not unusual in itself, but it is unusual to see in one of these documents a whole column full of money being deleted from the FEMA budget less than a year after Hurricane Maria, on the cusp of this year's hurricane season, apparently to bolster the government's ability to lock up and deport immigrants. Nearly $10 million taken out of FEMA, almost all of it going to ICE in order to fund more detention beds and ICE's transportation and removal program. Again, this is all according to this budget document obtained by Senator Jeff Merkley's office. Senator Merkley is on the Appropriations Committee. He's not on the Homeland Security Subcommittee there, so he doesn't necessarily have direct oversight here. But Senator Merkley's office tells us tonight that they believe this document is authentic. They believe these budget transfers out of FEMA instead to ICE, that these budget transfers, they believe, did happen this summer. Just before airtime, the Department of Homeland Security, in our efforts to independently verify this document, we did finally get a response to them, and they all but confirmed that Senator Merkley is right here. Just a few moments ago, Department of Homeland Security just confirmed to us that these monetary transfers out of the FEMA budget were made. A DHS spokesperson didn't dispute the authenticity of the document to us, and instead told us that the money didn't come from any of our disaster response and recovery efforts. But again, it appears that it did come from FEMA. We couldn't get any elaboration on that. The spokesperson said that's all they could tell us on such short notice. But we're happy to at least have that. Joining us now is Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat of Oregon. He is a member of the Appropriations Committee. Senator, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for letting us know that you'd received this document. We've been doing our own due diligence, trying to sort out what this means. What's your understanding of what this means, bottom line?
Well, it means that just as hurricane season is starting, because it generally starts June 1st, the administration is working hard to find funds for additional detention camps. And of course, this is all part of the child separation policy. And that's how this information came into my hands, because of my work on this issue of trying to stop the child separations. But in fact, so $10 million comes out of FEMA when we're facing a hurricane season, knowing what happened last year, and then look what we've had since. A hurricane just barely missed Hawaii, a tropical storm that almost became a hurricane hit Mississippi, and now we have this hurricane Florence bearing down on the Carolinas. I find it extraordinary. And by the way, Rachel, the chart you put up is the same chart I have in my hand right here. It says that money came from response and recovery, right on it. So I would dispute the statement that this has no bearing on addressing the challenges from hurricanes.
I am looking at the same document as you said that you are, and you're right. The list of areas from which from which the money comes includes response and recovery, and then response and recovery, and response and recovery, response, also preparedness and protection, mission support, mitigation, regional operations, all areas that FEMA has apparently partially defunded in order to instead send the money to ICE. Now, as you mentioned, Senator, this document and your understanding about about what this means comes in part from your work on the family separation policy. You did groundbreaking work exposing that to the public. You were the first person to come out and say that you'd been able to get into one of these facilities and seen kids in cages. Is it your understanding that the Trump administration's policy to start separating families, to start taking kids away from their parents, to start that new effort that they did this year, that might have necessitated this increase in funds because they didn't otherwise get that funded by Congress?
Yes, absolutely. It seems very connected because it was in a speech in May 7th that Jeff Sessions announced this new policy. It actually started a little bit earlier, the month earlier. But clearly they were saying if we're going to start arresting as a criminal matter and detaining people, we need to have much bigger detention camps. Oh, well, we better get some more money into that. And now the administration has just put out a draft regulation in which they intend to establish internment camps so that to lock up children behind barbed wire. So we're going from the horrendous policy of ripping children out of their parents' arms, and of course we're still trying to reunify all those families, to a new strategy of building internment camps that would be funded through the same account that these funds would go to through ICE.
Internment camps for kids who have been accused of crimes, of kids who are in trouble in the judicial system because of some criminal behavior, or simply kids who are immigrants?
Kids who simply are part of a family. So this is family internment camps. And we haven't done anything like that since World War II. It absolutely comes from a dark and evil place in the heart of this administration. They're going from one strategy of inflicting trauma on children to a new strategy that they're trying to implement to inflict trauma on children, all to send, as Jeff Sessions says, a message of deterrence to discourage people who are fleeing persecution from ever considering arriving on the shores of the United States of America.